The summons. Jack was an ordinary young man living in a bustling city on Earth. He worked at a small tech shop, fixing gadgets and helping customers. His life was simple, filled with routine. He would wake up, go to work, and return home to his small apartment. Jack often dreamed of adventure, but he never thought anything extraordinary would happen to him. One rainy evening after a long day at work, Jack received a strange message on his phone. The message was unusual, written in a language he did not recognize. It glowed with a bright light, and Jack felt an odd pull toward it. Curiosity took over, and he pressed the button to read more. Suddenly, the screen exploded in a flash of light. Before he could react, Jack felt a strange sensation wash over him. His surroundings blurred, and he found himself standing in a grand hall filled with shimmering lights. The air smelled sweet, like fresh flowers, and a gentle hum resonated through the room. Jack looked around in disbelief. Where was he? As he took a few steps forward, a tall figure emerged from the shadows. The figure was striking, with a regal posture and deep blue skin. She wore an elegant gown that sparkled like stars, and her long hair flowed like silver water. Jack realized he was standing before an alien queen. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. "I am Queen Ilara of the Xylothian Empire. You have been chosen for an important task." Jack felt a mixture of fear and awe. Chosen? Me? But why? He stammered, trying to process what was happening. The queen stepped closer, her golden crown shining brightly. "My daughter, Princess Lyra, is in grave danger. A dark force threatens our kingdom, and I need someone brave to protect her. You have the spirit of a warrior, and I believe you can help." Jack's heart raced. Protecting a princess. This was nothing like his ordinary life. "But I'm not a warrior. I don't know how to fight or defend anyone," he replied, his voice trembling. Queen Ilara smiled gently. "You may not think so, but you have skills that can be honed. In your world, you face challenges daily. You must have courage to step into the unknown. That is what I need." Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. He thought about his boring life back on Earth and the adventures he always dreamed of. This was his chance to be more than just a tech repairman. "I will do it," he said, surprising himself. The queen nodded, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Good. But first, you must understand our world. Come with me." With a wave of her hand, the room around them transformed. Colors swirled, and Jack felt himself being pulled along as the queen led him through a portal. They emerged in a vibrant forest filled with exotic plants and creatures. The air was fresh, and the sounds of nature surrounded them. Jack's eyes widened with wonder. "Welcome to Xylothia," Ilara announced, gesturing to the beauty around them. "This is where my people live. We are peaceful, but we face a great threat." "What kind of threat?" Jack asked, glancing around nervously. "A ruthless warlord named Malgur seeks to conquer our kingdom. He desires to capture Lyra and use her powers for his own gain. If he succeeds, it will spell disaster for both our worlds." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The thought of such evil was frightening. "How can I help?" he asked, determination rising within him. "First, you will train to be her protector. You will learn our ways and how to defend against Malgur's forces. I will guide you," the queen replied. As they walked deeper into the forest, Jack began to feel a sense of purpose. He knew he was stepping into a world filled with danger, but he also felt excitement. The chance to protect a princess and fight against evil was everything he had ever dreamed of. Soon, they reached a training ground. Alien warriors were sparring and practicing their skills. Jack watched in awe as they moved with grace and power. The queen turned to him, her expression serious. "You will start your training tomorrow. For now, rest and prepare yourself. You have a long journey ahead." That night, as Jack lay in a cozy chamber in the palace, he reflected on how much had changed in a single day. He was no longer just a simple tech repairman. He had been chosen for something much greater. He could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but also the thrill of adventure. As he closed his eyes, Jack dreamed of the battles to come, of standing beside Princess Lyra, and of protecting her from the darkness that threatened their worlds. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of an incredible journey that would change his life forever. You said, the training begins. The sun rose over Zolothia, casting a golden glow across the lush landscape. Jack awoke in the palace, his heart racing with anticipation. Today marked the start of his training to protect Princess Lyra. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he remembered the Queen's words from the night before. After dressing in simple yet comfortable clothing provided by the palace, Jack stepped outside. The forest was alive with sounds. Chirping birds and rustling leaves filled the air. He followed the path that led to the training grounds, eager to see what awaited him. When Jack arrived, he saw warriors of all shapes and sizes practicing their skills. Some were wielding glowing swords, while others showcased impressive hand-to-hand combat moves. He felt a twinge of doubt. Would he really be able to learn their ways? Queen Ilara stood at the center of the training area, her commanding presence drawing the attention of the warriors. She raised her hand, signaling for silence. Today, we welcome a new protector to our ranks. This is Jack, a human from Earth. He has volunteered to train alongside us to protect my daughter. The warriors looked at Jack with curious eyes. Some were skeptical, others encouraging. One warrior stepped forward, a tall and muscular figure with dark blue skin. I am Kale, your trainer. We will start with the basics. Follow me. Kale led Jack to a clearing, where he began with footwork drills. Jack struggled at first, tripping over his own feet and falling behind. But Kale was patient, offering guidance and encouragement. Focus, Jack. Move with purpose. You are stronger than you think. As the hours passed, Jack's body grew sore, but he was determined to improve. He practiced strikes, blocks, and basic combat moves. The warriors trained alongside him, some offering tips and others cheering him on. With each passing hour, Jack felt a sense of belonging and camaraderie. After the physical training, Kale introduced Jack to the use of weapons. He handed Jack a glowing training sword, its light pulsating in his hands. This weapon is light, but it can be deadly in skilled hands. Remember, it is not just about strength. It's about strategy and control. Jack took a deep breath, trying to center himself. He had never wielded a sword before, but he was eager to learn. They practiced together, with Kale demonstrating techniques and Jack following along. Each time he missed a strike or faltered, he felt Kale's supportive gaze urging him to try again. By the end of the day, Jack was exhausted but exhilarated. He had learned so much in just a few hours. He sat down on a bench, wiping the sweat from his brow. Kale joined him, a hint of a smile on his face. You did well today, Jack. You have potential. But remember, training takes time and patience. Jack nodded, feeling grateful for the encouragement. Thank you, Kale. I never thought I could do any of this. I want to protect Princess Lyra. I want to prove myself. Kale's expression turned serious. It is not just about proving yourself. You must understand the gravity of your task. Princess Lyra is precious to our people, and her safety is paramount. You will learn not just to fight, but to protect with honor. As night fell, Jack returned to the palace, tired but filled with hope. He had faced his doubts and discovered a strength he never knew he had. The thought of Princess Lyra being in danger weighed heavily on his mind, but it also fueled his determination. That evening, he shared a meal with the other warriors. They laughed, told stories, and shared their dreams. Jack felt a sense of unity that he had never experienced before. These were not just warriors. They were friends and allies, all fighting for the same cause. Before bed, Jack took a moment to reflect on his journey. He had left his ordinary life behind, stepping into a world filled with magic and danger. The challenges ahead were daunting, but he was ready to face them. As he drifted off to sleep, he dreamed of battles, of standing beside Lyra, and of the moment he would finally confront the dark forces threatening their kingdom. The next morning, training resumed. Jack was eager to learn more, to grow stronger, and to become the protector that Princess Lyra needed. Little did he know, the trials he would face in the coming days would test his courage and resolve like never before. The journey was just beginning, and he was determined to rise to the challenge. You said, a test of courage. The following days at the Zolothian Palace were filled with rigorous training. Jack was beginning to adapt to the alien customs and combat techniques, but he knew that he needed to learn more than just fighting skills to become a true protector for Princess Lyra. He also needed to learn about the threats they faced. One afternoon, during a break in training, Kale gathered the warriors around him in the courtyard. Today, we will discuss our enemies. Understanding the danger is just as important as knowing how to fight, he announced, his voice steady and commanding. Jack listened intently, his heart pounding. He wanted to know what he was up against. Kale continued, the enemies of Zolothia are many, but the most dangerous are the Shadow Raiders. They are merciless, attacking our lands under the cover of darkness. Their goal is to capture our royal family and take control of our kingdom. As Kale spoke, images of destruction and chaos flashed through Jack's mind. He felt a sense of urgency. What do they want with Princess Lyra? He asked, unable to contain his concern. Kale's gaze hardened. They believe that capturing her will give them power over us. She is a symbol of hope for our people. If they succeed, it will bring despair and chaos. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He knew he had to protect Lyra, not just because the queen commanded it, but because it was right. He looked at his fellow warriors. They were all determined and brave, ready to fight for their princess. After the briefing, training resumed. They practiced more advanced combat moves, including strategies for dealing with ambushes. Jack felt his confidence growing with each passing day. He was no longer just a human from Earth. He was becoming a warrior in his own right. One evening, as Jack trained alone, he noticed a figure watching him from the shadows. It was Princess Lyra. She stepped forward, her silver hair glistening in the moonlight. "You've improved, Jack," she said, a soft smile on her face. Jack's heart raced. He was honored that she had noticed his progress. "Thank you, Princess. I'm doing my best to be ready for whatever comes." Lyra's expression grew serious. "You must be careful. My mother has placed great trust in you, but the Shadow Raiders are cunning. They will try to find weaknesses in our defenses. You need to be prepared for anything." Jack nodded, taking her words to heart. "I will protect you with my life. I won't let them take you." She looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you, Jack. I believe in you. But remember, it's not just about strength. It's about using your mind as well." As the days turned into weeks, Jack trained harder than ever. He learned how to anticipate his opponent's moves, how to stay calm under pressure, and how to work as part of a team. But he also trained his mind, studying the tactics of the Shadow Raiders and the history of Zolothia. One day, while training in the forest, the group received unexpected news. A scout had spotted a Shadow Raider camp not far from the palace. The warriors gathered, adrenaline pumping through their veins. Kale looked at them, his expression fierce. "This is our chance to show what we've learned. We will scout the area, gather information, and report back. Remember, our goal is to protect the princess and the kingdom." Jack felt a mix of fear and excitement. This was it, the moment he had been preparing for. He joined Kale and a small team of warriors as they set out toward the enemy camp. The forest felt alive around them. Every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs heightened their senses. As they approached the camp, Jack's heart raced. He had never seen a Shadow Raider before. The warriors moved quietly, using the shadows to their advantage. They observed the camp from a distance, taking note of the guards and the layout. Suddenly, a loud shout broke the silence. A guard had spotted them. Chaos erupted as the warriors quickly retreated into the trees. Jack felt panic rise in his chest, but he remembered Lyra's words, "Stay calm." Kale barked orders, guiding the team to regroup. "We can't let them find us. Move quickly." Jack followed, adrenaline coursing through his veins. They raced through the underbrush, narrowly escaping capture. Once they reached safety, they halted to catch their breath. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, but a sense of exhilaration washed over him. "We made it," he exclaimed, feeling a rush of triumph. Kale nodded, a proud smile on his face. "You showed great courage today, Jack, but we must report back to the Queen. The Shadow Raiders know we are close. They will prepare for an attack." Jack understood the gravity of the situation. This was not just a training exercise anymore. It was a real threat. As they returned to the palace, he felt more determined than ever. He was ready to protect Princess Lyra and the kingdom he now called home. The fight against the Shadow Raiders was only beginning, and Jack knew he would face the ultimate test of his courage and skill soon. But he was prepared to stand firm, no matter the challenge ahead. "You said." The gathering storm. The days after their scouting mission passed in a whirlwind of preparations. Jack and the Zalothian warriors trained tirelessly, honing their skills and developing strategies to counter the looming threat of the Shadow Raiders. The air around the palace felt charged with tension. Everyone knew a storm was coming, and they were all determined to be ready. One afternoon, as Jack practiced his swordsmanship in the courtyard, he caught sight of Princess Lyra watching him from the balcony. Her expression was serious, yet there was a glimmer of hope in her eyes. He stopped for a moment, wiped the sweat from his brow, and offered her a smile. "Your Highness," he called out, "I'm working hard to keep up with your warriors." Lyra descended the stairs and approached him. "I see that, Jack. You are improving every day. But remember, this isn't just about physical strength. The mind is a powerful weapon, too." Jack nodded, understanding the importance of strategy. "I'll keep that in mind. What do you think we should do next?" Lyra hesitated, then replied, "I want to help. I've been studying the histories of our enemies. If we can anticipate their moves, we can outsmart them." Her determination inspired Jack. "Let's work together then. We can share what we learn with Kale and the others." The two spent the next few days poring over ancient texts and maps in the palace library. Lyra was a quick learner, and Jack marveled at her intelligence and insight. Together, they uncovered vital information about the Shadow Raiders, their tactics, and the regions they frequently attacked. One night, as they worked late into the evening, Lyra shared a startling revelation. The Shadow Raiders are not just a single group. They have different clans, each with its own leader and tactics. If we can disrupt their communication, we can weaken their forces. Jack felt a thrill of excitement. "That's brilliant. If we can create confusion among their ranks, it might give us the advantage we need." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "We need to inform Kale. He'll know how to act on this information." The next morning, they presented their findings to Kale. He listened attentively, nodding as they spoke. "This is crucial information," he said. "If we can create discord among the Shadow Raiders, we stand a better chance in the coming battle. I'll gather the warriors to discuss our next steps." As the warriors convened, Jack felt a sense of camaraderie among them. They were not just fighting for the princess. They were fighting for their home and their future. Kale led the meeting, explaining their plan to use the intelligence gathered by Jack and Lyra. "We will send a small group to disrupt their camps, create confusion, and draw them away from the palace. Meanwhile, the rest of us will prepare for a defensive stand. We need to be ready for anything," Kale declared. Jack volunteered to be part of the small group. "I want to go. I've trained hard, and I'm ready to help." Kale studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. Your bravery is commendable, Jack. But remember, this mission will be dangerous. Stay alert and stick together." As the team prepared for their mission, Jack felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. He was about to face the Shadow Raiders head-on, and he knew that this would be a pivotal moment in their fight for Zolothia. The small team included Kale, Jack, and two other warriors named Thera and Rax. They set out at dawn, moving quickly and silently through the forest. The sounds of nature surrounded them, but Jack's heart raced with anticipation. As they approached the first Shadow Raider camp, the tension in the air was palpable. Jack's eyes scanned the area, taking in the layout, and the guards stationed around the perimeter. Kale led the way, whispering a plan to create a distraction. Rax, you and Thera will create noise on the east side. Jack and I will take the west. Once we draw their attention, we'll attack swiftly, he instructed. Jack nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. They moved into position, and as Rax and Thera executed their distraction, Jack felt a surge of determination. He and Kale dashed toward the camp, their weapons drawn. The chaos erupted as the Shadow Raiders turned to investigate the noise. Jack seized the moment, launching himself into the fray. He fought with all his might, every training session flooding back into his memory. The clash of swords rang through the air as he battled one of the Shadow Raiders, a tall figure with a menacing grin. Jack felt a rush of adrenaline as he parried the opponent's blows, pushing himself harder than he ever had before. As the warriors took their positions, Jack found himself at the front lines, adrenaline coursing through him. The distant sound of war drums echoed in the night, signaling the approach of the Shadow Raiders. The first wave crashed against their defenses like a tidal wave. Jack fought with all his might, his blade flashing in the moonlight. He could see the raiders charging forward, their faces twisted with rage and hunger for vengeance. "Stand firm," Kale shouted, rallying his warriors. "We have fought hard for this home, and we will not give it up." The clash of weapons rang in the air, and the ground shook beneath them as the battle raged on. Jack fought fiercely, parrying blows and striking back with precision. His training with the Zolothians had prepared him well, but he couldn't help feeling the weight of the moment. As the battle continued, Jack noticed Lyra moving among the warriors, providing encouragement and direction. She was a beacon of hope, reminding everyone of their purpose. He felt proud to fight alongside her, knowing that they were united against a common enemy. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed over the battlefield. Jack turned to see a towering Shadow Raider, a beast of a creature leading the charge. Its menacing presence sent a chill down his spine. "We need to take it down," Jack shouted to Kale, determination burning in his chest. "On it," Kale replied, rallying a few warriors to follow him. They charged toward the giant raider, weapons drawn, ready to strike. The battle raged on, but Jack felt a sense of purpose. This was their home, and he would do everything in his power to protect it. With each swing of his sword, he felt the strength of his companions beside him, driving him to fight harder. But even as they fought valiantly, the Shadow Raiders continued to pour into the palace grounds, their numbers seemingly endless. The outcome of this battle was uncertain, and Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the fight for Zolothia was just beginning. As the clash of steel filled the air, Jack knew that he would stand with his allies until the very end. They had come too far to back down now, and together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. The turning tide. The battle raged on under the cold light of the moon, the air thick with the sounds of clashing metal and the shouts of warriors. Jack fought with relentless determination, each swing of his sword fueled by the desire to protect Zolothia and the people he had come to care for. Yet, as the Shadow Raiders pushed forward, their numbers threatened to overwhelm the defenders. Kale, fighting alongside Jack, shouted over the din, "We need to flank them. If we can cut off their reinforcements, we might turn the tide." Jack nodded, scanning the battlefield. He could see pockets of Zolothian warriors struggling against the relentless onslaught. "Let's rally a group and push through," he yelled, rallying a few nearby warriors to his side. They charged toward a cluster of Shadow Raiders, their formation breaking as they drew closer. Jack's heart raced. He could feel the energy of the fight coursing through him. Together with Kale and the others, they cut through the enemy lines, gaining ground. As they fought, Jack noticed Lyra at the edge of the battlefield, her keen eyes darting as she directed the flow of warriors. She was strategizing on the fly, her confidence inspiring those around her. He couldn't help but admire her resolve amidst the chaos. Just then, a loud crash echoed through the night as the towering Shadow Raider they had seen earlier stumbled back, its massive form crashing to the ground. Kale had struck a powerful blow, and the Zolothians roared in triumph. "That's it. Keep pushing," Kale shouted, emboldened by the fallen giant. Jack felt the energy of the warriors around him surge, and they pressed forward, forcing the Shadow Raiders back. But just as victory seemed within reach, a chilling scream pierced the air. A smaller group of raiders had slipped past their defenses and was heading directly toward the palace's inner sanctum. Jack's heart sank as he realized what was at stake. "Kale, they're going for the queen," Jack shouted, urgency flooding his voice. Kale's expression hardened. "We can't let them reach her. Jack, take a group and intercept them. I'll hold the line here." Jack nodded, adrenaline pumping through his veins. "Let's go." He rallied a handful of warriors and charged toward the palace, determined to protect the heart of Zolothia. They raced through the courtyard, dodging the ongoing fight. The shadows of the palace loomed large, and Jack could hear the echoing footsteps of the raiders drawing closer. The stakes had never felt higher, and he pushed himself harder. As they reached the entrance, Jack spotted the small group of Shadow Raiders. They were closing in on a set of large doors, which led to the inner chambers. Without hesitation, Jack and his team rushed forward, weapons raised. "Stop right there," Jack yelled, his voice firm. The raiders turned, their eyes wide with surprise. For a brief moment, the battle paused as both sides assessed the situation. Jack's heart raced as he realized the gravity of what was about to happen. They were outnumbered, but fear was not an option. The raiders charged at them, and Jack sprang into action. He fought fiercely, his sword dancing in the moonlight. Each swing was a desperate attempt to defend not just the queen, but everything he had come to love about Zolothia. His warriors followed suit, and together they formed a barricade between the raiders and the palace doors. The clash of metal filled the air as Jack fought alongside his comrades, each strike driven by the hope of victory. As the fight intensified, Jack caught a glimpse of Lyra darting through the chaos. She had managed to join them, her presence a welcome boost to his morale. "I'm here to help," she called out, determination etched on her face. "Good timing," Jack replied, relieved to see her. "We need to hold them off until Kale can get reinforcements." With renewed strength, they pushed back against the raiders. Jack felt the tide of the battle shift as they fought with unwavering resolve. But just as victory seemed within reach, a tall figure emerged from the shadows, a sinister leader of the raiders. "I'll take care of you myself," the leader roared, drawing a wicked blade. The air seemed to crackle with tension as the two locked eyes, understanding that only one of them would leave this battle alive. Jack's heart raced, but he couldn't let fear consume him. He had fought for so long, and he wouldn't back down now. He took a deep breath, readying himself for the confrontation. The leader charged at Jack, and the two clashed in a flurry of strikes. Jack fought with everything he had, each blow reflecting his determination to protect the queen and Zolothia. The world around them faded as they became locked in a deadly dance, neither willing to yield. With each strike, Jack felt his muscles burning, but he pushed through the fatigue, drawing on every ounce of strength. Lyra fought beside him, her own blade flashing as she defended him from the other raiders. The battle seemed to stretch on forever, the sounds of war echoing in Jack's ears. He could feel the weight of the fight bearing down on him, but he refused to falter. He knew that their survival depended on this moment. In a final, desperate move, Jack feinted to the left and swung his sword in a powerful arc, catching the leader off guard. The blade struck true, and the leader staggered back, shock written across his face. Jack seized the opportunity. "This is for Xylothea," he shouted, driving his sword forward with all his might. The leader fell to the ground, defeated. With the leader down, the remaining Shadow Raiders hesitated. The tide had shifted in favor of the Xylothians, and Jack felt a surge of hope. They rallied together, pushing the remaining raiders back, driving them away from the palace. As the last of the raiders flowed into the darkness, Jack stood panting, adrenaline coursing through him. Lyra approached, a proud smile on her face. "You did it, Jack. You held them off." Cale arrived moments later, breathing heavily but with a triumphant grin. "We did it together. Xylothea is safe. For now." As the warriors regrouped, Jack felt a sense of camaraderie and pride swell within him. They had faced the darkness together and emerged victorious. But he knew the battle was far from over, and the Shadow Raiders would return. In that moment, Jack made a silent vow. He would continue to fight for Xylothea, for Lyra, for Cale, and for the future they all hoped to build. The next chapter of their story was just beginning, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. A new alliance. The sun rose slowly over Xylothea, casting a golden light across the battlefield that had been stained with the remnants of the night's chaos. Jack stood among the warriors, still catching his breath from the fierce fight. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and sweat, and the sounds of celebration mixed with the mourning of fallen comrades. As the Xylothians began to gather their wounded and mourn their losses, Jack felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. They had fought together, and though the battle was hard fought, they had emerged victorious. But Jack knew the price had been steep. Lives had been lost, and the threat of the Shadow Raiders loomed larger than ever. "Jack," Lyra called, running up to him. Her face was flushed, a mix of exhaustion and relief. "You fought bravely out there. I saw everything you did." Jack shook his head, still feeling the weight of the battle. "It wasn't just me. It was everyone. We all fought together." Lyra nodded, her expression earnest. "But you inspired us. You stood against the leader, and it turned the tide. We all owe you our gratitude." Just then, Cale approached, a grim look on his face. "We can't celebrate yet. The Shadow Raiders will return, and they will come back stronger. We need to prepare." Jack agreed. The battle had proven their strength, but it had also shown them that they were in a dangerous game. "What do you suggest we do?" he asked, determined to be part of the solution. Cale took a deep breath, his brow furrowing in thought. "We need to form alliances. The Shadow Raiders are a significant threat, and if we can unite with neighboring clans or tribes, we can bolster our defenses." Lyra's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's a great idea. There are many factions that share our concerns about the Raiders. If we can gather them, we could create a strong front." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. "Let's set out at once. We can't waste any time." The trio set off, accompanied by a small group of warriors, determined to forge new alliances. They traveled through the lush, vibrant landscape of Xylothea, where the trees whispered ancient tales and the rivers flowed with life. But there was an underlying tension in the air. The scars of the previous night's battle were still fresh. Their first stop was at the border of the Tarak clan's territory. Known for their fierce warriors and swift tactics, the Tarak were formidable allies if they could be convinced. As they approached the entrance to the clan's stronghold, Jack felt a mix of hope and anxiety. Would they accept them? They were greeted by Tarak warriors, their expressions wary as they stepped forward. "What brings you to our land?" one of the warriors demanded, crossing his arms. "We come seeking an alliance against the Shadow Raiders," Cale said boldly. "We have just fought a battle against them, and we need your strength to protect our lands." The Tarak warrior eyed them, his gaze sharp and calculating. "Many have come to us before, promising strength against the Raiders. Why should we trust you?" Jack stepped forward, his voice steady. Because we fought for our home and our people. We are willing to lay down our lives to protect what is right. Together, we can stand against this threat. A moment of silence hung in the air as the Taurak warriors exchanged glances. Finally, the lead warrior spoke. "We will hear your story, but understand this. Words are not enough. We will test your strength." The Taurak led them deeper into their territory, where the sounds of battle echoed through the trees. They set up a series of challenges for Jack, Kale, and Lyra to prove their worth. The tests were grueling, pushing them to their limits, but they persevered, drawing on their shared determination and camaraderie. At last, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged victorious. The Taurak warriors stood before them, nodding in respect. "You have proven your worth. We will join you in your fight against the Shadow Raiders." Jack felt a surge of hope. They had secured their first alliance, and it felt like a turning point in the battle ahead. With the Taurak by their side, they traveled next to the territory of the Kalari clan, known for their skilled archers and unparalleled knowledge of the land. Jack felt a growing sense of purpose as they sought out more allies. Upon reaching the Kalari village, they were greeted by the clan's matriarch, a wise and fierce woman named Eldra. "I know of the Shadow Raiders and their threats. Many have suffered, and your battle is not lost on me," she stated. "Join us, and together we can put an end to their terror," Lyra implored. Eldra studied them closely. "Strength lies in unity. But before I agree, you must help us defend our village from their scouts. Show us you are committed." Without hesitation, Jack nodded. "Lead us to the threat. We will protect your people." Under Eldra's guidance, they set a trap for the incoming scouts. Jack and his allies worked seamlessly with the Kalari warriors, employing clever tactics to outsmart their enemies. The plan was a success, and when the dust settled, the Kalari praised their efforts. Eldra smiled, a glint of approval in her eyes. "You have earned our trust. The Kalari will stand with you against the Shadow Raiders." As they continued their journey, Jack felt a growing sense of pride. They were forming a coalition that could change the fate of Zalothia. With each new alliance, their numbers swelled, and their resolve strengthened. As they returned to Zalothia, the warriors began preparing for the upcoming battle. With Kale, Lyra, and their new allies by their side, Jack felt a sense of hope, but he knew that a fierce confrontation awaited them. The sun set over Zalothia, casting long shadows across the land. As Jack looked out over the horizon, he felt a renewed determination. They were ready to face whatever darkness awaited, united in strength, spirit, and purpose. The fight for Zalothia had just begun, and together, they would forge a future filled with hope.